Okay, so let's breathe out for a bit. Again, this is gonna be one of those very easy, sort of relaxing lessons. Just gonna show you how to make some nice detailed shock waves that you can put together in just a few minutes of work and get something that looks really nice. Some beautiful detail over here. So as always, blank scene, and let's make the grid bigger right away. So I'll just set it to maybe 75 on the Z because it's not gonna go up very much, but I'll do 300 by 300 on the X and Y. So we have this nice big grid. We're gonna actually use particles to create the shock wave. So emitters, particles, and shape primitive. I wanna make it a torus. Let's make sure it's sitting fully above the ground. And let's just shrink it down a little bit. So maybe something like this. And let's go to the emitter particles. I just want to set it to burst emission instead of continuous emission. Let's turn off the gravity. So active forces, I'll set the gravity intensity to 0. And for initial forces, this is something we haven't covered yet. So we actually want to give these particles an initial force so they fly outwards in that shock wave shape, going from the center out. So I want to say velocity from position. And now it happens very quickly, but you can see they're already sort of shooting outwards. So we need to just increase their speed scale so they're faster. So I'll just set this to 10. And now they shoot out like this, which is perfect, but I just need them to die sooner. So under life, I just want them to be alive for a brief moment. So I'll drag this range all the way back to only about 0.3 seconds to maybe about 0.453. So they're only alive for this brief moment. And now we can go into rendering and just turn off rendering for the particles so we don't see them. But we need to enable injection. And I just want to inject smoke into these particles. Let's set it to 100%. And let's set the velocity to 100% as well. And now if I reset, here's my shock wave. Simple as that. So the particles are a preferred way to make effects like this. We're also gonna use the particles to create detailed explosions and blasts. You really are able to get much more detail this way instead of using just a regular emitter, because each individual particle is creating its own velocity and it's creating this beautiful detail even without any noise in the scene. So now we can of course just go into shading and play with our colors as usual. So we're always doing blue, so maybe let's just do orange instead this time. Maybe do like a brighter orange and a darker red. And to get that beautiful detail, we can just enable upscaling. So simulation, I think I'll give myself even a bigger grid. So I'll just set this to maybe just 65 on the Z and 325 by 325 on the X and Y. And I'll set the upscaling to ×2, apply new resolution, reset. And here's my beautifully detailed simulation. And actually in that example I showed you, I set it to ×3. So that's 321 million voxels. It definitely slows down a bit, but you end up with this absolutely beautiful detail in the shockwave. Let's go under shading, rendering. We can crank up the smoke sharpening for the Raymart sharpening, and volume processing, sharpen that up a little bit as well. Scene, maybe increase the contrast just a touch, increase the saturation a little bit. As always, give it a little bit of bloom and glare. And we can maybe darken the ground even more to boost the contrast. Hit B to hide the brackets, Control spacebar to make this full screen, R, and here's our beautiful, really saturated shockwave. Just gonna pause it and zoom in so you can see the detail. Super cool. Now I think maybe the particles are alive for a bit too long. So, this is just the part where I would encourage you to experiment with these settings, see what kind of shock waves you get. So we can easily just, set the upscaling to none so it's fast again. Go into the particle life and shorten their life even more. So they're alive for just a little brief moment. but we can maybe give them more speed. So I'll just set the speed scale to 20, and now you get something a lot more crazy this way. So this could be like a meteor impact. You know, I think you can imagine the possibilities. So that was it, just a quick, easy shockwave with a lot of detail, and I'll see you in the next example.